Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of our attendees joining us today for this latest Data Science Central webinar. This is Bill Voorhees, your host. I'm the Editorial Director with Data Science Central and also Chief Data Scientist for Data Magnum. I'd like to start our event today by thanking Alteryx for sponsoring today's event. Alteryx is a longtime supporter of the Data Science Central community, and we're honored to have them sponsoring our event today. I'd also like to take this opportunity to mention and show our appreciation for some of our other recent sponsors, including Crowdflower, Tableau, Qubole, Dell Statistica, Exaptive, and Pivotal, to name just a few. Now, past webinars are available on demand at datasciencecentral.com. If you haven't had an opportunity to view them, I encourage you to take a look. They provide some very useful insight into a wide variety of topics of interest to our data science community. Now, today's webinar is entitled Faster Self-Service Analytics with Salesforce. And before we begin, I'd like to briefly review the format of today's webinar. Today's event will be an hour long. We have 5 presenters that I'll introduce in just a minute. There'll be 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A following the presentation. And this event is being recorded and will be available on datasciencecentral.com later today, following today's live event. Now, I'd also like to encourage our attendees to provide questions throughout the presentation. We'll be reviewing and presenting them on your behalf during the Q&A portion of today's event. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce today's speakers, Raman Kaler and Thuy Nguyen with Alteryx, Ben Pruden of Salesforce, and Caitlin and Sumit of Ryder Systems. Now, Raman is an alliance manager at Alteryx, where she focuses on defining strategy and executing programs for joint marketing efforts with key strategic partners. She currently focuses on partner marketing efforts with Amazon Web Services, Cloudera, Databricks, and Salesforce. Thuy is a solutions engineer at Alteryx, where she focuses on helping analysts with their data blending and advanced analytic challenges using Alteryx. She enjoys the ease of use and graphical interface that Alteryx provides and the visual workflow that it builds. Now, Ben Pruden has been a product marketer for Salesforce since 2012, and he's been part of the Wave Analytics team since its inception. Before working at Salesforce, he was an entrepreneur in China, and he discovered his love of marketing in Austin, Texas, working with social media technology startups. Caitlin is responsible for supporting key customers and market data analytic initiatives that directly impact Ryder Systems' business strategy using the latest BI tools. She holds a bachelor's degree in finance and economics from the University of Miami. And Sumit is senior marketing consultant for Ryder, responsible for providing B2B customer and prospect insight by analyzing internal and external data sources. He's focused on maintaining the Ryder marketing data warehouse, customer and prospect insight, driving contacts, lead analysis, and targeting strategy. Sumit holds a master's degree in mechanical engineering from UMass Dartmouth and an MBA from the University of Rhode Island. Well, thanks for being with us today, Raman, Thuy, Ben, Caitlin, and Sumit. We're looking forward to your presentation. The data found in Salesforce often needs to be combined with other data sources for impactful business insights. Now, blending, enriching, and analyzing Salesforce data with other sources takes time and slows time to critical insight. Now, Ryder Systems, a leading provider of global commercial transportation, logistics, and supply chain management solutions, has overcome these analytic obstacles firsthand. And in this webinar, you'll learn how you can easily harness the power of Salesforce by using SelfService Analytics to blend your Salesforce data with other data sources, including databases, applications, and spreadsheets, in hours and not weeks. Apply advanced analytics to your CRM data for richer insights, and produce dashboards and visualizations for your insight. Raman, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can begin as soon as you're ready to go.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we present Faster Self-Service Analytics with Salesforce. In terms of our schedule today, I'll kick it off by delivering a quick overview on the benefits of using Alteryx and Salesforce together. I'll then hand it over to Ben, who will brief us on the visualization possibilities with Wave Analytics before handing it over to the Ryder team. Sumeet and Caitlin will cover their challenges before using Alteryx and Salesforce together, as well as the results they achieved after. Twee will then demo how to build a workflow in Alteryx and output the results in Wave Analytics. And finally, we will conclude with time for Q&A. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. As you know, there is a variety of data in your Salesforce instance that can help uncover various organizational insights. This data can be used to uncover insights regarding the likes of which account executives are the highest performing, which marketing prospects are most likely to convert, or even which support reps are scoring the highest on customer satisfaction surveys, and why. While Salesforce clearly holds a plethora of key organizational data, its data typically needs to be blended with other data sources to produce impactful insights. A few months ago, Alteryx conducted a survey of data analysts and asked them how many data sources they needed to make a decision. Based on the findings, it's clear that there's been a fundamental shift over the course of just a few years. In many organizations, it used to be that IT blended data and then pushed it to the data warehouse. But despite all the excellent work that IT groups have done in creating centralized data management, analysts are still faced with the task of creating the specific analytic data set that they need. Only 6% of analysts have all their data in one place, and the majority of analysts have to pull data from 5 or more sources, the sources being spreadsheets, cloud applications such as Salesforce, social media, and that data warehouse we discussed earlier. The process of blending the multiple data sources is commonly done via spreadsheets or manual scripting, and not only is this time-consuming, it takes away from productivity. The process is complicated even further if the advanced analytics and visualizations need to be incorporated into the analysis. But this doesn't have to be the case. With Alteryx, you get faster self-service analytics with Salesforce data and Wave Analytics. With the two together, you can blend Salesforce data with other data sources in mere hours, deliver enriched Salesforce data and advanced analytics, and finally, you can create workflows that produce a perfect data set for visualization in Wave. So how exactly does Alteryx work? Alteryx allows analysts to connect to and cleanse data from various sources, easily join this data together, then perform analytics using the same intuitive drag-and-drop user interface without writing any code. With Alteryx, you can use the same workflow to perform the analysis, be it predictive, statistical, or spatial. Once you run your analysis in Alteryx, we make it easy to enable reporting, output data for visualization to the likes of Wave Analytics, or create analytic apps that allow business decision makers to customize and run their own analytics without having you create custom reports. Again, all of this is done with one repeatable workflow. In terms of where we fit into the market, on the right you see the rapidly growing data prep and blending market. Gartner found this market to be the segment in which the majority of spending for business user data integration is taking place, and it's in this emerging market that Gartner places Alteryx as the analytics platform for today as well as the future. So how does Alteryx work with Salesforce? Alteryx offers 2 drag-and-drop connectors for Salesforce. The Salesforce Connector lets you connect to your Salesforce.com instance directly and allows you to read and write to Salesforce tables so that you can blend and analyze your CRM data with other enterprise or third-party data easily. Our recently announced Wave Connector allows you to write directly to Salesforce Wave tables so that you can take your perfected and analyzed data set and visualize it directly in Salesforce, where the majority of your organization already likely spends their day. Over the next 3 slides, I'd like to quickly highlight the specific benefits of using Alteryx with your Salesforce data and Wave Analytics. In terms of blending your CRM data with other sources faster, you can quickly prep and blend Salesforce data, cleanse your data for cleaner, more useful data that helps unlock insights, and shape data for optimal visualization in Wave or via any other output format. And in terms of delivering richer insights with Alteryx and your Salesforce data, you can perform predictive analytics with the drag and drop tools in Alteryx. Analysts now can harness the power of R without actually coding. Furthermore, you can build geospatial analytics into your Salesforce Analytics practice to uncover deeper location-specific insights, such as where to open your next franchise location. Alteryx also makes enriching your Salesforce data sets and tables easy so that you can better understand your customers and make more informed decisions. Finally, with Alteryx and Salesforce together, Salesforce Wave together, that is, you can create workflows that produce the perfect data set for visualization. What's even better is that workflows can manually or automatically be iterated upon as the data changes, thus ensuring that analytics and visualization output remain current despite data changes. Also, should a new question arise from your leadership or management team, your Alteryx workflow can easily be adapted so that you can respond to the new requests without the delay of updating spreadsheets or, again, adapting those scripts. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to Ben to provide an overview of Wave Analytics. Ben?
Thanks so much. Well, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your time and tuning in today. So before we jump into what Wave is all about, I kind of want to just set the stage in terms of what we're seeing today in the world from the perspective of Salesforce. The reality is that companies and our customers are really more connected than they ever have been before. And what that means is that, sales reps, sales managers, service reps, marketing managers, really people across every line of business in your company need to really have data to inform their work and their work processes every step of the way. And that, guessing and checking is not really an option anymore. Sales reps are really kind of asked to be a trusted advisor. So cold calling is not good enough. They need to know exactly when they're talking to their customer what their white space is with that customer, what their product usage history is, or their inventory or recent service cases. They need to understand, how their own behavior benchmarks against best practice or that of their team. Sales managers need to be able to scale their business, which relies on capturing in-depth pipeline insight. What happened? What's changed? And really, where should I be focusing? They could need to look at things like pipeline trending and forecast management and how they can coach their team. Service reps really can either be reactive or proactive. They can get product and case insight, and they can deliver proactive service, understanding which knowledge articles may be most relevant to a customer based on recent cases that they've been looking at or have submitted, or they're identifying trends with certain customers or product types. And marketing managers really can capture leads and help mature those through the funnel. But they need to be able to optimize their processes to find the right customers and grow the pipeline. And they can do this by comparing campaign performance across multiple channels and multiple strategies, optimize those set of campaigns and tactics by offer and by audience, and uncovering trends across specific customer groups that create new content to capitalize on. So it's really kind of unquestionable that everybody in any company really needs a lot of data in order to be industry leaders and most successful. But the challenges that we kind of see is that everyday employees that need to be knowledge workers don't really have the access that they need with a lot of the legacy analytic solutions that are out there. Oftentimes, they're digging across a variety of different tools or places to find the information they need. They don't necessarily have it available where they're working and what they're doing so that they can answer a question or respond to a need for data instantly. It's not self-service. Oftentimes, there's a service bureau. In fact, maybe many of you are part of that service bureau that helps to provide answers to the organization or the individuals within your organization that need data to do their jobs more effectively. But oftentimes what that means is that the individuals who need that data, they're waiting, and they're struggling to get the answers they need to help drive results. And then the other thing we see consistently is that there's not necessarily action tied to the data that people have. So they're not able to deliver an outcome instantly or level up information that needs to be shared with other folks. And then lastly, they can't get the information and the data they need on the go, and they may be having to wait to get back to their desk if they have a question about that requires some more data and analysis. So kind of all what this amounts to is that legacy analytic tools are really slowing people down. It's just the general systems that they're using, the manual processes they have to work with, multiple spreadsheets, the disconnected systems. And like a great example that we see consistently is that tons of companies are still forecasting their sales in spreadsheets, and they're relying on team calls to update information in real time based on what some more recent interactions were. So it just slows things down. It creates less transparency, and it creates disconnected processes and people. So the question that we are consistently asking ourselves here at Salesforce is really, how do companies and how do individuals at companies get smarter about their customers, no matter what they're doing or how they're engaging with them? And that's what Wave Analytics is really all about. Wave is about helping our customers and Salesforce users everywhere get smarter about their customers. And the first thing that we delivered when we delivered Wave was about giving a platform so that any business user can get connected to all their data wherever they are. It's kind of helpful to think about it as like an individual kind of personal data warehouse where anybody across sales, service, marketing are able to quickly see and access the data they need to be effective. Second is we have a whole series of analytic applications that we're providing now that help companies get up and running really quickly. So they can have the best practice KPIs as well as templates that we've rolled out for them to get insights for smarter sales and smarter service. We also have things for IT. We have an event monitoring Wave application that we recently released as part of our event monitoring service that allows IT managers to see and manage adoption, security, and risk. The other things that we have are, you're able to instantly take action right from the point of insight. With Wave Actions in Salesforce, you're able to drill down to the individual record on an analytic kind of view into your business, and then instantly from that view, click into an action framework that allows you to escalate a case or open a new opportunity or assign a new task. And then lastly, it's mobile first. So you're able to get answers anywhere while you're on the go or wherever you are or whatever you're doing. And the great thing about Wave is that it's all part of the broader Salesforce customer success platform. It's just part of the broader service. You've got the world's most trusted multi-tenant cloud. You've got all your data already in Salesforce, and you can use incredible tools like Alteryx to pull that data out and share it or connect it with other sources, but then bring it back into to Wave and the analytics cloud at Salesforce to get views across any number of different scenarios that your business users might need. There's workflow and identity all built in. And of course, we've got the broader Salesforce set of solutions for sales and service and marketing and community as well as applications. So, Wave, we've been around for going on 2 years now, which has been an incredible journey, and we're seeing incredible customer success. Companies like Tricor, who are based out of New Mexico, who are identifying and delivering better patient service every single day. And Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, who's based out of Boston, who are the publishers of Curious George and the Little Blue Truck, who are helping their teachers, their salespeople get better connected to educational institutions every single day. So really a variety of different ways in which a whole series of customers are making their companies more successful by putting data in the hands of their people as they're doing their jobs every moment of every day. And with that, I'm actually going to pass it off to an awesome customer, Ryder.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you everyone for this opportunity to speak about my experience as well as my team's using Alteryx as well as Salesforce. And as Ben mentioned, my name's Caitlin. I'm a marketing analyst at Ryder, and some of my key responsibilities on my team involve market and customer data analytics initiatives. So to start, to give a little background on Ryder, we serve customers globally as a leading provider of fleet leasing and maintenance, dedicated transportation, and supply chain management solutions. With a fleet greater than 185,000 vehicles, Ryder serves over 50,000 B2B customers at more than 700 locations. And if you're interested in learning more about Ryder, please visit us at ryder.com. So some of our challenges as a team historically involve supporting a marketing group of greater than 50 people as an in-house analytics team of 5+ people. Furthermore, in the past, we have had no centralized data source, meaning we didn't have consolidated information in one place. This lack of a consolidated information source led to heavy reliance on IT, creating long lead time for project completion. Essentially, we did not have a 360-degree view of customers in one place for customer information as well as relevant financials. Due to this required the use of multiple instances of Salesforce when downloading customer information, with the need to then go back to our financial systems to retrieve the related financial information, making the process highly repetitive. However, as a team, we are always searching for more ways to work smarter. And luckily, our team's vice president introduced us to Alteryx, and Sumit, from whom you'll hear from shortly, was initially chosen to pioneer this platform. Sumit shared his early successes using this platform with the team, at which point a decision was made to begin a trial license with the entire analytics group. Since I didn't have an extensive background in the data world, and my part, as well as the majority of others on my team, primarily involved Excel and SQL, the need for a new tool wasn't immediately apparent. Therefore, there was initially some reluctance, mainly due to unfamiliarity, but the trial license was great in showcasing the impact that Alteryx could make. And so through YouTube videos available on the Alteryx channel, as well as on-site training with relevant data to my analytics team, I became more and more comfortable using Alteryx. I was also continually encouraged by Sumit to use Alteryx as a platform in completing projects, which included customer and market segmentation, various prospecting, industry targeting, and many other analyses. And while gaining familiarity with the platform, the Alteryx account management team was always responsive, answering questions, and the Alteryx community always proved to be helpful. I can say I now use Alteryx daily, and I couldn't imagine working without it. At this point in time, I would now like to introduce the data scientist who was the pioneer user of Alteryx on our team, Sumit Tuteja, to speak about how we overcame the hurdles of having multiple instances of Salesforce.
Hi everyone. Welcome joining us on this webinar. My name is Samit Tija, and I'm working as a senior marketing consultant in the Ryder team. So how we come up the Salesforce hurdle. So as you know, and you've been following to this webinar, how the Salesforce information is critical for knowing the current status of the customer, whether it's ongoing sales or a pipeline opportunity for a prospect. So all this information is available in the Salesforce, and it has to be downloaded or be available based on some pre-built report, or the person has to go online to design new reports, or available by individual account by account. So there was no data or the connectivity where we can go and download all the information at the same time. So when we were introduced to Alteryx, I was very much fascinated by the connectors available in the Alteryx. So one of the connector was Salesforce Connector. So it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to connect to the Salesforce Connector. So with the help of Alteryx technical team and support, we were able to connect to the Salesforce Connector within not more than 1 or 2 hours. So I was able to up and running. So depend on how long it takes to connect to the object and everything. It's all depend on how familiar you are with the backend data. We can say the objects and the data in there. So for me, it was I had a pretty good experience with the Salesforce data before. So for me, it was like a day. And not more than a day. I was pretty much familiar with the process of connecting and downloading and playing with the data. So the another thing that I'm pretty much excited about the Salesforce Connector was there is no limitation of downloading the data, and you can just slice and dice the data, or you can just take the piece of data, whatever you need for your analysis. So that's a pretty much powerful tool you have in your hand. So you don't need to wait on the IT team or the Salesforce team to provide you data. You can just have the data with a click of button. And being said that, in the next slide, if you see some of the projects that we have done here using the Salesforce Connector, one of them is the lead analysis. So when it comes to lead analysis, we have to connect to the multiple data platform, not just the Salesforce. So we have to connect to the Salesforce, which is primary source of our customer information. Then we have the marketing automation tool we use internally in-house. We have our sales data, then we have our financial data. So there are multiple data sources where we have to grab the data of our lead or the customer and then combine them together through the Excel file before we had Alteryx in-house. So this process of initiating the project, from downloading the Excel file, stitching the Excel file, and then finally presenting some insight, it takes almost like more than a month to deliver the project. And it's heavily dependency on the IT and the other business team to provide us the data. And by the time we do the analysis and we receive the data, the timeline or the data gets stale. So we are pretty much dealing with the old data. We are not dealing with the current data. So now having Alteryx as a powerful tool, we can connect to the live data which is available right now, kind of instance. And within the same workflow, if you see over here in the slide, I'm not only just connected to the Salesforce, I'm connected to our another SQL platform, our marketing automation, and all of the functions available in the Alteryx, combine them together and come up with the one workflow which I can refresh the data with a one click. So before, you can imagine how tedious was the process of downloading the data in Excel file and do all the processes. Now it's like a robust automated process. So whenever we need it, we can run it and provide the data and analysis for our customer. So being said that this is not just a one process we use Alteryx for. We have used Alteryx for our customer engagement analysis, for target prospect analysis. We have also leveraging for the pipeline opportunities, and in future definitely we are looking forward to leverage it for our predictive analytics using the R code. So we don't need to write down the R code, which is pretty much inbuilt functionality in the Alteryx. to sum it up, how Ryder as a marketing team been beneficial by the Alteryx. So definitely it's a time-saving tool where it enables user to connect through multiple data sources at the one time and give the ability to slice and dice the data as per the requirement or the project. Second, at the help, as Caitlin mentioned in a micro, that the Alteryx sales team and the community and the on-site training is very helpful, really help us to pick it up the tool more effectively and more frequently. And they have a lot of tons of information available on the virtual online training and webinar, as well as on the gallery. And beside all those training, everything, the Alteryx is very user-friendly. If you have any background about the data analytics, I think it's pretty easy for a person to pick it up. And so being said that, I will hand it over to Tui. So Tui.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll go ahead and start on the demonstration by sharing my monitor here. And so Alteryx is a leader in self-service data analytics. Alteryx Analytics provides analysts with a unique ability to easily cut, blend, and analyze all their data using a repeatable workflow, then deploy and share analytics at scale for deeper insights in hours, not weeks. With this intuitive user interface, what you're seeing here, with drag and drop tools, Alteryx makes it easy for business analysts to blend, prep, analyze, and visualize data all without coding. So if you're taking a look here at my screen, you can see at the top palette here, this is called our tool palette. So these are all the different actions you're going to have available to you. Again, it is a code-free environment where, for example, if we want to input data, we can go ahead and drag our input data tool into our canvas and easily configure this to go ahead and connect to our data source. We can easily connect to a database connection or file browse and connect via this method. So you can see all the different file types that Alteryx has to offer here in terms of connections. And so I can go ahead and easily select the file that I want to read in and connect to that data source. So you can bring in multiple input data sources. And if you're looking to go ahead and connect to, for example, your Salesforce input, you can see in the connectors category, we have various connection options already pre-configured for you. So Salesforce input, Salesforce output, as well as Salesforce wave output, which we will review today. So that's kind of the basics of Alteryx and how intuitive it would be for users to interact with it. So I'm going to open up the process prioritization workflow. So the Alteryx Starter Kit for Salesforce is actually a free package of sample Alteryx workflows that use your Salesforce data in combination with other data sources to actually produce insights that are then outputted directly into Salesforce Wave Analytics. And one of those workflows available is this prospect prioritization workflow. In this example, we're actually going to review this workflow, which comes pre-built as part of the starter kit. So the prospect prioritization workflow shows analysts how to actually rapidly produce prioritized prospects through segmentation of their leads in Salesforce. New prospects are compared to demographic and behavioral data from previous high-value customers. So you can see the various data sources there. This workflow example sorts through new prospects and delivers prioritized lists of sales follow-ups. So you can see on our canvas here, we have contacts from Salesforce as well as experience customer view household data and store location and sales data. So let's go ahead and navigate through our data sources. Starting off, here we're in Alteryx, and you'll see that we have imported our contact data from Salesforce, which contains fields such as the Salesforce ID, contact ID, first name, last name, the latitude and longitude fields. If I continue to scroll over here in our Browse Everywhere window. And so along with the contact data, we also have imported data from Experian customer the consumer view household data. So changing over to this data set, we can see here that we enriched our data with these additional fields through the experience customer view. So you see in the join here. And then our last data set is the store location and sales data, which we'll also use to blend within our data set. Now, from the Salesforce data set, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and select our necessary fields such as name, contact ID, city, state, and so forth. Once it's done, we can also rename some of our fields. So what we want to do is use our create point tool, one of our spatial tools, to go ahead and create a point with the latitude, longitude and latitude field, which will then create that spatial object for that customer centroid. So then that will provide us information about the location of the prospect. This data set can now be blended together with the Experience Consumer View data set, which you can see here in our Join tool, where we are joining by our Contact ID field. So this data set now we're going to have not only our contacts from Salesforce, but also demographic information on the actual prospect, such as their income range, number of children, whether the prospect has a credit card, whether he shops online or by mail, and so forth. So now we're going to use a custom macro to reshape fields, which you see here for our custom macro here. Doing this will actually transform the state codes into descriptive values and help create an income range. So we can take a look here, and so we now have the various income ranges in our data set. And so once we've actually created that, we can now go ahead and look to limit our data for prospects to meet our criteria of having an annual income in excess of $50,000 and a likelihood to be a homeowner. So you can see there we're going to add in a filter tool to go ahead and filter our records, as you can see down here, by the income range as well as whether or not they are a homeowner. So the filter tool will go ahead and filter down our data set for us. And so with the store location and sales data, we'll create a 150-mile trade area around each store. And so that will give us a spatial object, which we'll rename as store trade area. So we can see here we're matching on that store trade area. And so once we've identified prospects that fall within this trade area, as they will likely be able to purchase given their proximity to the store, we can now cleanse this data and replace fields with a value unknown with a hyphen and remove unnecessary fields using a multi-field formula and select tools, as you'll see down this workflow here. So with the combination of the multi-field, the formula tool, and select tools, we're just doing some basic cleansing here. And so once we have our data set ready, we're ready to now publish this data set to our Salesforce Wave output. So let's go ahead and go into our Salesforce Wave output. And so in this tool here, this is where you're going to go ahead and configure your Salesforce credentials. You'll need your username, your password, as well as your security token, which you can get from your Salesforce login. So once you actually type in and establish a connection, you can go ahead and connect. And this is where the tool will allow the user to directly output a data set to Wave Analytics. Your options to write are to either create a new data set, overwrite an existing data set, or append an existing data set. Today we'll go ahead and simply create a new data set by selecting that option. And once we've selected that option, we can go ahead and type in a new data set name, since that's the option we've selected. And so I can just type in test data set. And so if you want this data set to be associated with a dashboard app that you already have created, you can go ahead and select the drop-down to make that connection. However, if you don't want it to be associated to any data set, since we're creating a new app on Salesforce Analytics, we'll go ahead and leave this field blank. And so once we've created that, and we now have our configuration summary that will create this data set. So now when I execute my workflow, this data set will go ahead and be published directly to my Wave Analytics data set, which I can then access on Salesforce Wave. And so I do also want to mention, before jumping over to Salesforce Wave, if you want to output this data set to, for example, Tableau, you could easily do that by removing this icon here or adding an additional icon into your workflow and streaming this data set into, for example, Tableau in this case. And so that could easily be done by adding in that additional tool. And so now I can jump into my Salesforce Wave Analytics here, and you can see the various data sets. As you can see right here, this is what I created within my workflow that I just ran. And so now if I toggle over to my dashboard, the prospect prioritization dashboard's already been created for me here. And so I can easily, for example, zoom in on all the stores here in the state. And if I wanted to continue to dynamically filter in and take a look at, who has a credit card in that state, who shops online, their income range, and so forth. So this dashboard is all built here with a data set that we've designed and worked and built within Alteryx. And so that's kind of how the integration would work, and you could start to build out your visualization within Wave Analytics using that Alteryx data set that you built and published. And that is the end of the demonstration here. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Thank you, Tui. As the next step, I'd like to ask our registrants to visit us at alteryx.com/Alteryx for Salesforce to download your free trial of the Alteryx Designer. Or if you are interested in taking a look at some of those sample workflows that Tui just went over, please visit us at alteryx.com/Salesforce Kit for not only 5 free workflows that have been pre-built, but the corresponding Wave output as well. And with that, I would like to hand it back to Bill.
Well, Raman, Tui, Ben, Caitlin, and Sumit, thanks so much for that excellent presentation. We'll get started with today's Q&A session, and I want to thank the audience for their participation. We've had a lot of questions that have come in during this presentation, so we'll do our best to get through all of them in the time remaining. And during the Q&A session, I'll leave up this screen with contact information for Raman, Tui, and Ben if you'd like to contact them following today's webinar. So let's get started. Caitlin, Sumit, a lot of questions have come in regarding the Ryder experience with Alteryx. So let's start with, how long did it take you before you felt comfortable and productive analyzing Salesforce data once you got started with Alteryx?
So hi, this is Sumit here from Ryder. So as I told in the session, the connectivity connected to the Salesforce Connector is based on the credential and the access you have to your Salesforce. Once you connect it to the connector, I think it's pretty easy to download the data directly from the object. So it's all for me. It was not more a day exercise. So I was up and running and downloading and playing with the data within a day. I hope this helps answer your question.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. And give us a little sense of scale, would you? How many data sources are you connecting to, and what's the volume of data that you're running through it?
So as you know, the Ryder is more of the B2B company. So we are definitely dealing with the millions of rows of data, and we are not just connecting to the Salesforce Connector. We have marketing automation tool. We have the SQL. We have Netezza. We have Excel reports. We have the data coming through FTP servers. So there are many platforms that we are connecting. We can connect to the. We've been connecting to the Alteryx at the one single workflow.
Well, Sumit, thanks. And has Alteryx actually completely removed the need for ETL using your IT department?
Not really, but definitely we do need the IT to download all the data from the legacy system. But what it's been eliminated is downloading the different applications to connect to the data. Suppose before we had to download the Netezza, or we had to download the Agility Workbench to connect to the Netezza Workbench, and the SQL Server or Microsoft SQL Studio to connect to the SQL Server, and all those things, right? So when having access to the Alteryx, we don't need to download such more applications. So once you have downloaded the Alteryx, you're good to go. And another beautiful, the another thing is that having this process set up, it can be leveraged by any team member. Whoever have access to those data sources can replicate the process at their machine. So it's not just a one machine standpoint. You can use the same workflow can be leveraged by multiple team members, or the multiple access.
Excellent.
I think that's a great point that you make, Sumit. With the Alteryx gallery, what you can do is publish some of these workflows straight to the gallery so that the analyst is no longer sort of filtering one-off requests in terms of, hey, can you give me this data? I need to address XYZ question. The business user would simply go to the Alteryx gallery, take a look at the workflow, and be able to address that question. So I think that's a great time saving there as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those great answers. Raman and Twee, some technical questions about Alteryx and its data handling. When data is downloaded by Alteryx, are you actually downloading it into the Alteryx server, or are you doing it in database? And what is the implication for very large, big data size databases?
I'll let Twee handle that one.
Yep. So Alteryx actually processes everything in memory for their engine. However, we do offer in-database processing. So that is definitely a feature that I would take advantage of if you're working with a lot larger data sets. So for example, you're trying to blend a data set on your database server that is, a terabyte large in size, and you're trying to blend it to a smaller Excel file. Instead of bringing the data down, what you could do is potentially bring the data up. So what I would do is create a temp table on the database side and then do all the processing using the performance on the database and only bringing back the subset that I need, or potentially outputting directly from that database. So we do, in general, process everything in memory, but we do also have the capabilities of in-database processing.
Oh, terrific. Okay. And also a technical question. Obviously, when we connect all of these databases, we have to have a common connector, and the common connector isn't always there. In what ways does Alteryx support what I would call fuzzy logic matching to enable easier connection of more of these tables together?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, you can design that into the Alteryx workflow. And what we do have under our join category is a fuzzy match tool, which does offer various types of fuzzy match algorithms from Levenstein to gyro distance. So all that will be available, and it is all within the fuzzy match tool and with the same intuitive feel for you to use and clean up your data to have that underlying variable that matches between the different data sets.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that answer. Ben, it wasn't entirely clear that the audience understood exactly what WAVE was. and maybe you could explain why Wave is different from other traditional analytic tools.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. So there's a few things that are kind of critical to help you understand, what makes Wave different. First, it's completely based in the Salesforce cloud. It's just part of the Salesforce infrastructure. So all of your analysis can sit, and run natively to Salesforce. It's also extremely easy to embed Wave visualizations and dashboards really in any place in Salesforce across Salesforce Classic UI or our Lightning UI. The other thing that's pretty powerful is that it's 100% integrated all the way from the visualization layer down to the data set layer. So once you do transformations or joins or whatever you need to in Alteryx, you can and you bring your data into Wave. You're not pinging a database elsewhere or in a different location. You're doing all of your queries directly in the Salesforce cloud, which means that your analysis itself is extremely scalable, and you could start with a couple people using Wave, and you could expand all the way out to 1,000 people using Wave, or all the way out. You could push it all the way out to your customers if you even needed to, and have tens of thousands of people using Wave, and you wouldn't have to even think about any of the infrastructure, any of the scalability, any of that. It would just work, and that's something that's incredibly powerful that our customers really generally love. So the last thing that I'll mention is that it's both actionable and mobile. So when you're using Wave, you can, one, access it wherever you are on your phone or on your tablet device if you need to. And then there's actionability built straight into it so that when you're drilling into the individual record level detail and you want to create a case, or if you want to create a new opportunity, or if you want to escalate something, you can do that directly from the analysis itself without having to pivot to a different system or something else. So the seamlessness of it allows for much greater kind of harmony with other business processes.
Well, Ben, thanks for clarifying that. That was a great answer. Back to Ramon and Twee for a minute. Our audience asks whether or not Alteryx is used basically just for one-off queries, or whether or not you can reuse these workflows to actually, for example, productionize particular types of data extracts.
So I think actually Ryder is a perfect example of productionizing those regularly scheduled polls. So based on my conversations with Caitlin and Sumit, they actually do lead analysis assessments twice a month, and they've basically gotten it down to a point where they've productionized the workflow run, and instead of taking 2 business days per run, it takes a matter of 2 hours. But this is actually specific to Ryder, and I'll hand it off to Twee for a more generalized response.
Yeah, so you definitely can use Alteryx for more ad hoc queries, but once you've actually designed a workflow that you're ready to push from development to production, you definitely could productionalize a workflow, and we do have scheduling features for you to schedule those production workflows and schedule it on a time base, so more frequently run those workflows and output those data sets or wherever the end result report that you like to have as an end result be worked out.
Well, thanks.
And what's great about production, actually pushing these to production and automating these types of workflows is that not only are you saving time, but the analysts that typically spend their time doing such analysis, now they are free to actually do a deeper dive of this analysis or explore new insights. So for Ryder, for example, they now have 48 business days that they gained from Alteryx that they can spend doing analysis of additional insights that they're trying to uncover for their business.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that answer. Twee, the audience noticed that you did something really interesting in your demonstration, and that is that you used a geographic boundary around some sites. And so the question has come in, gee, how'd you do that? And for example, if you wanted to use that to identify site locations, how would you go about doing that? And is, obviously, if you're identifying overlapping site locations, cannibalization might be an issue. Do you have a best practice for dealing with that when you're working with geolocations?
Yeah, so when you, to do that, what we did in our example was we actually created a trade area around each of the store locations and matched the customer locations within that trade area. So you have different options when you're doing a spatial match. You can either do it within, whether it's containing or it's intersecting. So you have the various options that you can build within the workflow. So if you have multiple overlap between the locations, we do also have a location optimizer, or you can have it return back one that is the closest, depending on your requirements. You can definitely design that within the workflow, and all that was done under the spatial category using the spatial tools.
Okay, terrific. And we didn't actually demonstrate any predictive modeling in this round, but I know that Alteryx does that, and the question has come in, since you're using R, can folks write their own R code? And maybe you'd comment a little bit about the modeling capabilities that are native to Alteryx.
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So yes, within Alteryx, you can customize your own R code if you are familiar with R, and that would be found under the developer category. But within Alteryx already, we have great models already pre-built for you under predictive category. Anything from a logistic, linear regression to decision trees to more machine learning, such as the SVM or the neural network modeling. We also have A/B testing models available for you, time series if you're trying to forecast sales, for example, predictive grouping, market basket analysis, or K-means cluster is already going to all be pre-built for you. And then our latest that we just released is our prescriptive modeling. So any type of optimization you're trying to do, or any type of simulation that you're trying to do, Monte Carlo simulation, you're going to be able to do that within Alteryx. Using that same drag and drop interface with the intuitive feel where you're configuring after you've dragged and dropped those tools.
Well, Raman, Twee, Ben, Caitlin, Sumit, thank you for some great answers to some very good questions. For those of you that asked questions that weren't answered today, we'll be sending all the unanswered questions to Raman and Twee and the Alteryx team so they can follow up with you after today's webinar. I have just a few quick announcements. If you'd please mark your calendars for August 2nd and our next DSC webinar, which is Multi-Genre Advanced Analytics to Optimize Your Hadoop Data Lake, which will be sponsored by Teradata. Also, remember that today's taping will be available for on-demand viewing later today, and you can find that on the homepage of datasciencecentral.com in the webinar tab that's located at the top of the page. Well, this brings today's webinar to a close, and I'd like to thank our audience for their attendance and thoughtful questions, and a special thanks again to Alteryx for their sponsorship, and our speakers today, Raman, Twee, Ben, Caitlin, Sumit, for their insight into today's topic. Now, my name is Bill Voorhees. I'm very pleased to have been your host for today's event, and I look forward to seeing you all again on August 2nd. Have a great day.